Today we're going to look at a process called completing the square. And what I want to do is make this a perfect square trinomial so that I can factor it into two like binomials. So to do completing the square, I have to look at this term, which is called the b term. Remember, a quadratic equation in standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c. And a quadratic equation has to be in standard form in order for us to be able to complete the square. So I start with the b term, and the way I complete the square is I divide it by 2 and then I square it. So if I do that, that's going to give me, if I square 3, that's 9. If I square 2, that's 4. It's going to give me a fraction, but that's okay. I can deal with fractions. Once I complete the square, then I bring that back and put it on the end where, notice where the box is. So I'm going to put 9/4 in the box. So now this is a perfect square trinomial that I can factor. So, and that's the goal. I want to be able to factor it. So I draw two sets of parentheses. Then I want to factor x squared. X squared factors into x and x. And then want to find factors of 9/4 that when I add that together, that gives me 3. Well, there's a little trick we can do to do that. We can basically just take the square root of that, and the square root of 9/4 actually brings me back to where what I completed when I completed the square. So it's going to be 3/2. So plus 3/2 and plus 3/2. Now you're probably sitting there saying, well, does that actually equal 3? Well, let's add them together and let's see if they do. So I take 3/2 plus 3/2. Remember, when I'm adding fractions, have to have a common denominator, which I do. So I add the numerator, so I have 3 plus 3, which gives me 6/2. And if I reduce that fraction, 6 divided by 2 gives me 3. So that checks out. So now that I have factored that, I can write it as a binomial squared because notice both of these are the same. So I can write that as x plus 3/2 squared, which is the goal. That's what I want to be able to do.